Don't bury the lead. We recap WWE Smackdown every Friday night after the bell. My name is John Zindel. This is Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
It's a crazy night, and it was apparently a pretty crazy SmackDown. So, without further ado, John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story from tonight's SmackDown, September 15th?
Dom, at this show, we don't ever bury the lead. And the lead tonight is pretty wild, and I did not see it coming. Dwayne The Rock Johnson returns to WWE Smackdown. He comes out, he shoots a promo with Pat McAfee and Austin Theory. He kind of buries Austin Theory and beats him up. I'm going to put it like this. This is the best explanation. He plays all the hits, you know? He plays all the hits. He says the lines that he always says. He does the people's elbow, and he gets out of there. The crowd is obviously going crazy for him because he
Sure.
is he's a wrestling legend, and he is basically an A-list celebrity too.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's really got that going for him. Dom, what'd you think about this segment?
Like you said, he played all the hits. This was totally a nostalgia thing, right? You're saying he did all the things he usually does. There wasn't a lot of new stuff here. I thought, and we'll get to this. Hey, we're going to do cheap heat later. I thought this was just cheap pops on the Rock's part. Like he, at one point, he's having the crowd. He's directing the crowd to say, "You are an a-hole," except they really said the more vulgar version of it that they had to bleep out on the telecast. So, like, what's the point of that? Like, it's The Rock. Does he need to do this?
The only thing I will have to say is, why did they make him say a-hole? And
Yeah,
then they have to bleep out the crowd, or they turn off the volume. They don't even click beep. They turn off the volume. So the crowd's going crazy because it's The Rock and they're eating it alive, but you can't hear any of it. So who would have thought, WWE, who is, oftentimes guilty of pumping noise in, they are at this moment during this segment taking noise away as they have to mute the mic because
yeah, they're being their own censors. They're not leaving it up to Fox or if it were Raw, they're not leaving it up to USA. They're just doing it themselves.
Mhm.
Boy, what a change from AEW where John Moxley says like whatever he wants,
Right, he drops the
and
F
so do
word.
a lot of other guys. WWE trying to make it a kid friendly show. So the Rock's there now. How about what he does to Austin Theory? They get into some physicality. Um, Basically, The Rock hits one spine buster and then he milks the crowd reaction. This is burying Austin Theory because now it means that Austin Theory took one spine buster and he's knocked out. He's not moving. He's got to sit there for what seems like 5 minutes. It wasn't 5 minutes, but like it seems like forever. He's just
Mhm.
got to lay there while The Rock just stands over him, pointing to the crowd. Then finally he does the people's elbow, and then he lets Pat McAfee do it too. And Austin Theory's just got to again lay there and take it. This is burying a guy who he had a belt not too long ago. He was winning on pay-per-views not too long ago. He was just in a program with LA Knight, who they're trying to push. Cheap pops, and they're burying Austin Theory. Like, I guess they had to throw someone to the dogs tonight.
It's weird that they would throw Austin Theory. I guess they trust him enough on the mic.
Yeah,
But they
he
don't
did
have
a
like
good job on his own, right? Like he was giving it to The Rock. He was being the brat.
yeah. Um,
We've been critical of Austin Theory, and we've noticed that he's had some opportunities taken away from him in recent weeks, maybe the last month and a half. What did you think of him tonight?
I think he did exactly what he was supposed to do out there. He actually held his own a little bit with The Rock.
Me too.
with the back and forth banter. Um, and he did come off like a little squealy heel if that's what he's going for.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it. So one thing that sticks out to me is when WWE used to have these shows like a couple years ago. One of the big complaints is all the young guys kind of come in and get swatch, and all the part timers are superheroes, and they come in part time and they get to do whatever they want. Brock Lesnar was a
Okay.
guy who was part time. He would just did whatever he wanted. So you'd have all these matches, you'd have all these rivalries, and then suddenly, oh, Brock's back. He's going to take the title, and that's just sort of it. So
Mm.
that's something that's kind of plagued them in the past, and I hope that isn't the situation here. I don't know, really what the hell The Rock was doing in Denver on SmackDown. It's very, very odd. It's an interesting show to hold out for 4 years and be teased and be teased and be teased, and then like, oh yeah, we're gonna pull the trigger. It's The Rock. He's here. But
And he didn't even come back for a bloodline thing, like to confront Roman or anybody else in the family.
that's
He's just there like, "Hey, The Rock's here. He's gonna open the show, and he's gonna run down a guy who might actually be here for longer than a few months."
right. He's gonna bury some guy they need on the roster
Right, he's gonna
desperately.
bury a 26-year-old who might have a long, successful career. Oh, no.
Yeah. So nonetheless, he was way over, and it kind of leads into cheap heat for us here, Dom. So
Yeah,
we
I
didn't
mean, he's a
see
movie star, so, he's gonna be way over, right?
this is
So
true.
what's maybe this is a good segue for cheap heat. What's a movie star doing here? I mean, a little later they show The Rock backstage with John Cena, and of course they're buddies now.
Yes. So we've got the last couple, we're talking about a little cheap heat here. And I'm sitting here on my couch. I watched some of the beginning of SmackDown. And I'm saying to myself, man, The Rock's here in Denver. John Cena is been all over the program for the past couple weeks.
Hmm.
He's been in India. He was a special guest referee, like very odd roles, like doing anything he can. He was there tonight in a segment with Grayson Waller, like he's just part of the roster, like he's just full time on the roster.
Yeah.
And I'm scratching my head. I'm like, what are these guys doing here? And it dawns on me. I'm like, oh, there's the writers' strike. And as a result of the writers' strike, the actors are all on strike too. So
Hmm.
essentially, Hollywood can't make any more movies because there's the writers' strike. There's the actors are also striking with the writers as a result.
Hmm.
Some people have crossed over the line, but I think Bill Maher is one of the people that he's going to go on with no writers and try to do his show with no writers. Um,
Okay.
but but
He's one
there's
of the few that can do it.
yeah, because
We
he's
wonder how the WWE is able to do it. I guess their writers are not considered part of the Writers Guild.
no. I think the WWE writers live. They have the worst occupation I can imagine. Uh, they have to have Vince McMahon ripping up their stuff all the time. They have to like travel on the road with them, and they have to have internet nerds talking about how WWE creative's terrible. So they write stuff, they get trashed by internet nerds, they get bullied by Vince. I don't think they're part of that union, no. So, um, but anyways, so kind of what I was getting at was the fact that they can't do movies and they really can't do TV shows, and they can't even promo some stuff they've done in the past. So one movie that's actually kind of flopped by The Rock is Black Adam, and that was a big flop. But
Oh.
he can't even go out and try to promote that because they're not allowed to promote stuff. So
Hmm.
long story short, John Cena and The Rock, they got pro wrestle again. They can't be working in Hollywood, so they're
Right?
back on the show.
It's like, suddenly the strike goes on and, they get this little text from, Vince McMahon. Hey, what you doing?
Hey, what are you doing? Yeah. I can even show you. I have some articles because I at first I was like, "Am I making up a crazy?" You know,
No,
and
you're
then,
right. You're spot on, man. This is exactly it.
yeah. So this is
And
from
if,
looper.com.
media sites are catching on to it too. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right on, man.
So, I looked up a little back. I actually jumped to a conclusion before doing any research. I was like, I wonder if anybody else has figured this out. And it said, could Dwayne the Rock Johnson return to WWE during the writer's strike? There's another article I have here, and it's from. Give me a sec here as I pull it up.
So that the Hollywood press has figured it out. That, if you want to cover The Rock and John Cena, just like, hey, watch wrestling.
Yeah. So right. So this union's refusal to, or whoever, there's
Yep.
a refusal to end the strike, forces John Cena back into wrestling ring. And
Hmm.
this article goes on about how all the things he can't really do, and then essentially that he's kind of stuck into going back to wrestling. So this adds up a lot, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to look into it a little bit more. But yeah, so that's my cheap heat.
Do
John
you like
Cena.
having them back?
Um, yeah, I do like having them back. I mean, they're
Okay,
big names. If The Rock's back every week, like you could do a lot with him in the bloodline. That would be crazy. Like
it would be.
if nothing at all, The Rock is going to be a huge draw. A, B. I mean, even if he was, you know, like he's going to be a huge draw, and you can include him in in this story. He would fit right into the bloodline story.
Hmm.
He's in the bloodline.
Especially right now.
Yes.
Now, is there some difficulty, I would imagine, for the writers who are still working for WWE Creative? Do they know how long The Rock and Cena are going to be here? Or are they just playing it like it's indefinite? So, like, how deeply do you write The Rock or John Cena into an angle? I mean, maybe the strike is over in next week, and these guys are back on a movie set, or they're back flying around the country, promoting stuff that's they've already made and that's in post production.
From all I can have read and how long it's been going on, it does not appear like it's going to happen anytime soon.
Okay.
And there is also going to be that buffer period that once the strike's back on off and they can go back to work. Okay, where do we start? What are we going to do? Because like how are we going to get everything going? Like it's still, let's just say it's not like the strike ends, the movies are made. It's like no,
Mhm.
they're going to have to um, start from scratch, right? Because then you need to talk to the writers and all the actors and see who goes where.
So what you're saying is they probably got at least a 2-month window to set up The Rock versus Roman Reigns at Survivor Series.
Oh my
Oh, a rumor! You heard a rumor? You heard a rumor that The Rock and Roman Reigns were gonna meet for the WWE Universal title at Survivor Series. Is that what you're saying? You heard a rumor?
God. A rumor, Doc. A rumor. All right. Well, that's
It'll be fun though, right? I mean, if these guys are here for an extended period of time, you because all right, let's put it this way. It was fun to see Cena do the host of the pay-per-view. It was fun to see The Rock come out tonight. But if they're going to be on programming regularly, even if it's just for a month or two, they can't just come out and have The Rock do cheap pops and squash a young guy for 15 minutes
who's gonna have
every
to
week,
wrestle.
right?
Yeah, they're gonna have to
He's going to
wrestle.
have to wrestle, and he's going to have to not just run over the doggone roster. So
Yeah.
if they want him back, then they have to include him in the programming as if he's a wrestler, not as if he's movie star who, had a day off.
I wonder. I know Cena would be willing to go out and do a match, but I wonder where Rock's at physically. He's in great shape, but is he ready to take bumps?
Yeah.
You know, is he in bump in shape?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll have
Because
to
that's a big
see.
deal. We saw that with Trish Stratus. It took her a few months to work herself into ring shape. Now, after doing it for 6 months, she had a great cage match with Becky Lynch. But early on, it was a little painful to watch Trish not be in ring shape.
Yeah.
And The Rock is probably around that age, if not older. it would be it would be painful to watch The Rock if he's not in ring shape, right? So hopefully he's getting there if they want to use him and if he wants to be used.
Yeah. I'll ask you one question. Do you
Sure.
think that this is a one-off for Rock, or do you think he'll be hanging around here? Um, just because it's so random.
Um, it could be more than a one-off because we're already almost halfway to next year's WrestleMania. So if they were planning to have The Rock come back for next year's WrestleMania, around now is when you'd want him to get into shape and maybe be thrown into a programming, maybe not immediately in the middle of September, but by maybe Survivor Series or end of the year, you'd want to have it. John Cena, they brought back end of last year, and then that set up eventually a match at WrestleMania with, of all people, Austin Theory, who we're talking about tonight. So this is probably around the time you'd want to start working him in physically and creatively to what you're doing if you were setting up a big Royal Rumble WrestleMania for 2024, which will be in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Finally The Rock has come back to the city of brotherly love. So if that's in your plans, then yeah, do it. I don't want to see cheap pops and burying young guys for more cheap pops every week. But if The Rock wants to work and he wants to get himself into wrestling shape, then yes, I want to see him on TV. He's still a great talent.
For sure. And
If he's not going to do that, though, then no, I don't want him showing up every 6 weeks just to bury somebody else.
speaking of great talent, Doc, let's see here. We got another talent that I feel is very good. Maybe not great, but very good. MJF.
MJF, this
Let-
guy is gold. He's another young guy, but he's golden.
yeah. So MJF shoots a promo here, and I'm going to go ahead and press play, and we can listen to the promo. It's going to sound a
Okay.
little familiar to you folks.
I'm going to choke you out. I repeat, if you
Uh-oh.
And he's talking about Samoa Joe here. This is key. He's talking about Samoa Joe.
I promise on my life, I am.
Let's try this again. I'm going to rewind.
So if any of you want to play along at home here and figure out who's MJF referencing, a big clue is that it's an MJF versus Samoa Joe program that they've started in AEW really the last week and a half, maybe.
If you wrestle me, I am going to choke you.
Uh-oh. Let me try one thing. How about you jump onto your... Why don't we move on to the next Cheap Heat, Dom? We'll cut this one.
You want to move on to the next Cheap Heat and come back to MJF?
I repeat, if you wrestle me, I...
Let me try one thing.
Okay.
If I refresh, stupid X.
This is kind of like what LA Knight did recently that we talked about, where he did a callback to an old Kevin Nash promo. Is MJF
a medical update on MJF after what we just... saw with Samoa Joe?
Thanks, dude.
Well, Renee, unfortunately...
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Let's skip to the next segment, and let me see if I can't figure it out.
Okay.
So
Then
maybe...
I'll do a screen share here if we want. We'll talk a little business, I think, if I can bring up this one. We have the TKO Holdings up on our screen here. Let's see. We do not. Let me try another one. Share screen. Aha. There we go. We're going to talk some business. TKO Holdings rang the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange on Tuesday, the first day that their TKO ticker was live after the merger went through. I'm not going to play it for you because it's basically guys just standing around and eventually somebody rings a bell, like quite literally rings a bell. Does his name ring a bell? Oh, his face rings a bell. Well, here they literally ring a bell. But this is a good ceremonial thing that happens. You've made it when you get to ring the opening bell at the NYSE, and of course the TKO guys got to do that, and you can see on the screen there. We've got let's see. There's Triple H. There's Vince McMahon. This may be Nick Khan. That's Dana White. This is Ariel Emanuel. I'm guessing right here in the center here of the podium behind the TKO championship belt. So they've got all the big people from the C-suite. And they're having a good old time. This was a fun ceremony, but let's talk about what the new merged business maybe means to creative. Vince McMahon no longer has to run the business side of everything like he did at Titan Sports. So what's he up to now? He's kind of like The Rock and John Cena. He's looking for stuff to do. Well, Vince is looking for stuff to do, and WrestleZone tells us that he's reportedly calling in from his remote locations and making changes to live wrestling programs.
I love it. Yes, Vince.
This comes to us from WrestleZone. Thank you, WrestleZone. There's Vince McMahon. He's reportedly back from his medical leave. And instead of going back to, looking over accounting ledgers for 10 or 12 hours a day, he's calling in making changes to Raw. I wonder if this will be a regular thing. Now that he's supposed to be, I guess, involved more in creative, at least the way the structure of the new company is. This report from WrestleZone is a combination of Sean Ross Sapp at Fightful Select and Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio. But apparently, both of them have sort of told from their sources that, yeah, Vince McMahon is meddling again. Good, bad. What do you think of Vince McMahon now having more time on his hands to maybe get involved with the wrestling program? What do you say here?
I'll tell you what, Dom. Vince McMahon being around in the picture, being a big pain to everyone, is nothing but good for our channel. So, from a selfish standpoint, I love Vince being around. I think he adds a lot to our channel because he's always doing such crazy, weird stuff, and he gets a lot of views.
He's good for chatter. He's good for commentary. He's good for gossip. He's good for talk. He's good for talk radio, sports talk radio, wrestling talk radio. He's good for don't bury the lead. So it's good that you did not bury the lead there. We like it for don't bury the lead. But what might this do to the product? We've talked before about every now and then we watch a TV program and we wonder if there's a Vince thing happening. Oh, that was a Vince thing. Like this Monday on Raw, for instance, Shinsuke Nakamura doing a video vignette and he's posing seductively with a samurai sword. Might that be a Vince thing? Can you imagine him calling in? It's like, oh, Nakamura's going to be on it. Get him a sword now. Get him a sword in that video now, right now. Get him a sword. Have him touch it.
Touch the sword, pal. Oh, man. Yeah. So that's where it isn't good is when you're watching the show and you get like really long promos to start every show. And it's a person that shouldn't be talking and they're trying to memorize the script and they're bumbling all over their lines. That's Vince stuff. He loves everyone just talking on mic, even if they can't talk. Everybody gets a shot to talk on that mic. But yeah. So
someone else from WWE business side, Nick Khan. This also comes to us from WrestleZone. They talked about the Spotify interview that Nick Khan gave on the Bill Simmons podcast. He's talking about creative. So we've got business guys talking more about creative here out in public and feeling very brazen about it. But Nick Khan seems to get it. He's talking about the creation of new characters. And he's talking about LA Knight being the first LA Knight, not the next John Cena. And he also brings up Dominic Mysterio. how, they made a change with Dominic Mysterio, making him, from this young wrestler, obviously Ray's son. They wanted him to be more of a heel, and it worked. Like, it worked so well for him being heel, so they let him be himself rather than Rey Mysterio's son. So this is good. If WWE Creative is now going in the direction of, we don't want copies of old things. We want people to find their own voice. I think that's fantastic. They're doing it with LA Knight. Nick Khan also mentions Jey Uso in there as a guy who with his new role as a singles competitor, main event Jey Uso, he may be creating something new. This is good stuff. I like this. He also brought up UFC stuff, since they can do that now. He made an analogy to Conor McGregor. Like, Conor McGregor had so much charisma. And so for a while, if UFC was trying to find the next Conor McGregor, it wasn't going to happen. You're not going to find the next Conor McGregor. You got to find the first of whoever else it is that's going to be a star. So, good sign or bad sign that Nick Khan is talking about so much creative when he's going on podcasts?
Yeah, I mean, that's an executive who probably has blown a little smoke. Let's face it. I don't know how heavily he is in the creative realm or how heavily he should be. But maybe he is kind of has the right concept and right idea here, or at least maybe that's the understanding when he talks to Triple H and the creative, people on the team. That's the direction they're heading. So when he's sitting in those meetings, that's something he's understand. Maybe he at least understands that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that he's the one on the ground creating,
No.
or even thinking up of these ideas. But it's kind of like when you're in a meeting and like you're talking about like, oh, what our software developers do. You have like a high level overview of what the software developers do, but you're not writing the code. But you could probably say, okay, this is what they do. Like,
Sure.
This is what they can provide to us.
And this is Nick Khan's strength, right? He was good at going on programs and being the spokesperson for the WWE. So like, I don't think he's involved in creative, but I do like that he seems to have a really good understanding of publicity and of what makes stars resonate with audiences. He seems to understand that. I think that's good news. And if he's going to go on shows like this and be able to speak to the product this well, hey, let him do it. I think that can only be good. So yeah, good stuff here on the wrestling side, on the business side of wrestling. Now that the merger has gone through in their first week, I wish them all the best with this. Do we want to talk about more people going on rather mainstream non-wrestling shows? Because like the Bill Simmons podcast, not really a heavy pro wrestling thing. It's more of an all sports and entertainment thing. Ric Flair, he went on Everyone Talks to Liz Clayman, not a wrestling show. In fact, she even said that this is the first pro wrestler she's ever had on her show. But a cool thing that happens in this is they start talking about wrestling and wrestling psychology. And if you want to find this, it is on Radio Fox News. If you want to go and look this up for yourselves, Ric Flair on Everyone Talks to Liz Clayman. Now I'm going to play the audio for it. It's a fairly long interview. It goes almost an hour. But at some point, they're talking ring psychology and chemistry. And Rick says, Sasha Banks, one of my favorites, she and my daughter, who would be Charlotte Flair, remind me of me and Ricky Steamboat. I have not seen Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair in matches together. Have you, John? And is that is it too high of a comparison, or do you see it?
Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Bailey are should be considered pretty top workers at this point.
Those were the four horsewomen of NXT, weren't they?
Yeah. So when you make those sorts of comparisons, you could say, yeah, I mean, not nearly as good as Flair and Steamboat, but they were ripping it up, and that there is and Charlotte works like her father,
mm-hmm.
and Steamboat was very like quick and athletic, kind of like Sasha. So
Okay.
yeah,
He's
I could see that
mentioning Sasha Banks. She's now wrestling as Mercedes Moné. She went to Japan for a while. Him calling her out on a mainstream radio program as Sasha Banks. Do we think that Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, is headed back to the WWE? Because she kind of left under not good circumstances, didn't she?
Yeah, no, I don't think she's going back. I think she's pissed.
Okay.
They wouldn't give her a huge contract, so she left. She threw the belt in the trash and left. She was a tag team champ. She threw she didn't throw it in the trash. She threw the belts into the office at whoever was in the office, took her bags and left. So she was pissed. It wasn't on good terms at all.
Vince McMahon hired Eric Bischoff. So can we really say never in pro wrestling? Well, let's change it a little bit. It could happen. Would you want to see it? Do you want to see Sasha Banks back in the WWE and maybe showing us whether or not she and someone like Charlotte Flair have that kind of chemistry, like a classic old feud?
That's an interesting question. Sasha Banks went to New Japan and kind of changed her gimmick, and it was really cool, and she was really over, and she got injured. Mm-hmm. So she only wrestled during one match. Or on her second match, she got injured. So unfortunately, she's been injured for a while, and she was at AEW All In.
Okay.
The Wembley show. She was in the crowd, waving to everyone and everything like that. So I think she's going to have a New Japan AEW run, and I'm more interested in that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Very I actually good. Thought it was kind of a win-win because she got paid a bunch of money. She's done all she can do in the WWE. She's had the titles back and forth. Like, there's a certain point where you're like, I would like to see creatively what she could do in Japan and AEW.
I'm going to ask you another AEW question here. I don't have an article for it, but I did hear and see the headline. Jade Cargill. She had a long run with the belt there. Jade Cargill, it seems that she may have finished up her AEW run. Would you like to see her come to WWE if that's a possibility?
This is another person where they kind of booked her like Goldberg, Jade Cargill. So she's had just a bunch of squash matches. Yeah, there she is.
There we go. Just found it from WrestleZone again. Thank you, WrestleZone. You do a good job of collating news reports from around the wrestling world.
Yeah. So, Jade Cargill, she is, she was in AEW, and I thought she was going to stay. I was actually pretty surprised, but she has the look that WWE would be like, yeah, we can poach her because she's huge, she's beautiful, and she can talk on the mic a bit too. And she's got like the attitude and swagger, and they booked her kind of like Goldberg. And I think her big problem is she's pretty weak in the ring. Like she is a 2-star wrestler. Dave Meltzer, 2-star wrestler.
Okay.
She's always botching things. She's screwing things up left and right. She goes too hard, and then she tries to do stuff that's too complicated instead of doing big man stuff. And it might be
she looks powerful. Is she supposed to be a bigger wrestler?
She is a bigger wrestler.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a big powerhouse. But she gets caught up in some spots. And I mean, there's a botch every match. And it's a little bit like Ronda Rousey.
Oh, okay.
Her work at the end where it was like, what are they doing out there? But there is the possibility that Jade has worked, because she's been out of action for a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Jade's worked on her technique. She goes back to the WWE. They give her easier stuff to do because they were asking a lot out of Jade Cargill. I mean, she had to carry a title and be undefeated. So
yeah, tough to learn with the title. We talked about NWA, Camille having to do the same thing almost.
Yeah.
She had maybe a dozen matches before she got the belt, and she had to really grow as a champion. So Jade Cargill was in sort of that same position.
Exactly.
Okay. It says there from Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp, they say the report notes that sources within both WWE and AEW believe that Cargill is bound for the WWE. So, you know, if AEW is kind of written her off, then if she still wants to wrestle, she's got to look elsewhere. Maybe she does wind up here.
I think AEW would have been interested in keeping her, but maybe they just got outbid by WWE.
Okay, well,
And
we'll see where that
she's gonna.
goes. It's another big name in women's wrestling who may turn up somewhere else, and it may be the WWE. Hey, we may see her on SmackDown. Who knows? So, hey, that's what I've got for you this evening. For Cheap Heat, do you want to give one more shot to our MJF thing? We've been,
You know, why not? We got one person watching here from Twitch, and we got a person watching from Facebook. Hey, shoot us a chat. Shoot us a message. What do you want us to talk about? What do you think about The Rock coming back? And while we're, you know, while you have this conversation with us, I'm going to try to load this.
see if we can load up this from AEW's Twitter channel, a clip of MJF cutting a nostalgic promo. Did anybody see this promo? If you're watching us, by the way, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or whatever platform you're on. YouTube does have all of our stuff goes on YouTube, including our shows that we're doing now. We upload them usually not in the live stream. They get uploaded maybe next day to YouTube or late at night. But go ahead and subscribe over at YouTube if you find us there. And of course, leave us comments on the videos that you really enjoy.
So,
MJF in the program with Samoa Joe. Do you like the program with Samoa Joe? You're an AEW fan.
let's see. I might have it. Hang on.
Okay. Again, we are not trying to pilfer anyone's video content. AEW has already put it out there publicly. They've clipped the video. We are using it fair use as just for news and commentary. Please go check out AEW's video platforms and their shows on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday night. If you want to watch, obviously, their full programs and not just see clips. But we're going to try and cue this up here so we can briefly talk about it. But yes, go to AEW's Twitter, their other platforms if you want to see their full clips of MJF and Samoa Joe and all the other cool stuff that they're putting out. I am ready. I am so ready. I gotta tell you, normally I'm 50% ready, but with like you, me, and a screen share, now that's like 33% ready. But like the screen share can't beat me, so now I'm 66 2/3% ready. But
well, I'll tell you what. Twitter failed, but I just going back to a creator like us, and using their video to just have a view at this.
okay.
So let me just click into. I'll share my screen out.
So the Twitter has like just a 25% chance, but if you subtract my 33% chance, then they have a negative 8 1/3 chance of this thing working.
Exactly.
And so normally it's going to work like 66 2/3 time. But if you add the 75% time that it works when we do this, this is going to be 141 2/3% awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think. We have
because we're
sound
doing it
here.
in our hometown. What? All right, I'm gonna show it to you.
Don't believe me. Let me get it.
Because for the first
Don't believe me. Let me get it through your thick, fat skull with some simple math. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% chance at best to beat me. Then you add my boy Cole, watch my back to the mix, your chances of winning drastically go down. See, at our match at Grand Slam, you got a 33 1/3 chance of winning, but I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning because everyone in New York knows you can't beat me. So Samoa Joe, you take your 33 1/3 chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 1/3 chance of winning at Grand Slam. But then you take my 75% chance of winning, since we're wrestling in my home state of New York, and then you add 66 2/3 chance, I got a 141 2/3 chance of winning at Grand Slam. See, Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you in our thrash. Disaster! Because we're better than you, baby.
well, I think
I was doing a little note taking here. The math works out. He's got it.
The math works out.
The math works out. He's a genius. Who knew? So, did you see that when AEW ran it this week?
that math is straight out of
No, I did not see this live,
Okay.
but I will have to admit I didn't see it live, and I only saw when you had messaged me. You said, "Yo, check this
Okay.
out."
Because
And-
I heard about this, and as soon as I heard that he was doing math and against Samoa Joe, and that it involved fractions, I had to play this back, and I listened to it. Folks, if you're watching us now in Cheap Heat, search on your favorite video platform for Scott Steiner math promo. It was from his time in TNA Impact. It was from 2008. Cue up Scott Steiner doing math. It is a classic and both famous and infamous promo. And MJF, we talk about him being a student of the game. This was brilliant. It's like he watched that Scott Steiner promo and became the genetic freak. Because he was doing all the maths. He had all the percentages there. This was brilliant. Go find it, entertain yourself. What do you think about MJF doing callbacks like this to just stuff from wrestling lore?
Yeah, it's great. You can hear the crowd erupt when he starts to do it because everyone knows the promo.
Right? What a
And-
smart crowd.
Yeah, everyone has heard this promo with Scott Steiner, and it's kind of ridiculous that he ever did that promo, but it was so great.
Yes.
And you know, he nailed it. Yeah, he nailed the repeat of the promo.
And the math
you know-
works. Like Scott Steiner, was he just doing the math in his head? Because like he has 66 2/3 and 75. That adds up to 141 2/3. Like that's spectacular if he was just doing that in his head without cue cards or teleprompters or anything. And MJF to have memorized it, I think it's brilliant. MJF has done this before, hasn't he? After the CM Punk problems at All In, he did his promo about we're a bunch of misfit toys. Was that, am I reading into it? Was that a callback to an old Paul Heyman promo from ECW?
Yeah. That was Paul Heyman. Where the Misfit Toys is an ECW Paul Heyman throwback. And then he also has done stuff like when CM Punk threw the big hissy fit, he was eating like muffins or something at the press conference. And he's like, "Oh, these muffins are from Chicago. They're the best." Blah, blah. And he's like,
during the post-event press conference. Yes, I do remember footage of that.
And then he fought everybody in the back, and then he was suspended for a year. So the next pay-per-view, CM Punk's there, and he's got a big thing of pickles, and he's like chomping on the pickles.
The pickles, that's what it was. Okay.
And MJF is eating the pickles, and he's like, "Oh, these pickles are great." And pickles are a hilarious thing to eat while you're talking. He's crunching on them. They're like, it's not like a food and they're huge pickles. It's not like it's a huge, ridiculous food to be eating on during a press conference, but it's just kind of it leans into like, okay, CM Punk's doing the Chicago thing, he's doing the Jewish thing, so he's eating Jewish pickles, you know.
There you
So, um, but yeah, so that's all we had here for Cheap Heat. I'm glad we got that one out, Dom. And we're gonna mosey on down here to the Italian Goodbye. We still have 4 people watching right now, so
excellent. I love it.
hit us up in the chat.
What did you like from tonight's edition of SmackDown? We didn't touch on much of it because it was basically The Rock was back, and then we had a lot of Cheap Heat to talk about. What else did you like? Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits made another appearance. Things going down in the LWO. We did get to see LA Knight and The Miz a little later. If you had some favorite things that you wanted to touch on, let us know in the chat. Let us know in the comments. Maybe we can go more into it in a future webcast here. But yeah, this was fun. This was unexpected and weird, kind of like The Rock being in Denver tonight, but it was fun.
Yeah, so Dom, thanks so much for joining. Big night for us, and maybe we'll celebrate it on Friday. We'll celebrate the next one. We have hit a landmark, I would say. We have 250 subscribers and 1,000 views on YouTube. We started this channel. Is it literally a year ago? Did we start?
Almost a year ago. And yes, if you go to our About page on Don't Bury the Lead, a wrestling channel there on YouTube, it says total views for the channel, 101,822. Now, that's not a running count because it's been saying that since this morning. So maybe it updates for people like me who are just kind of visiting every day or so. But yeah, we broke 100,000 total views. For me, we're in the vicinity of 250 subscribers. It says 248 right now, which is still a big number considering we just did the 100 with the funny glasses not too long ago.
Yes. Yeah, so if you're watching on YouTube right now, why don't you subscribe? You'll be the 250th.
Yes.
You could win $1 million.
Not from us, though. But like
Not
if you buy a lottery ticket, you might win $1 million.
You could theoretically win $1 million if you're watching on YouTube here.
If you enter something that actually gives you a chance to win $1 million. I sound like Brian Last now on the Jim Cornette Experience. It's like, no, that's not true. That's right, not what the sponsor said.
Yeah, right. That's not. He always has to do that. That's not what the sponsor said. No, but yeah, we're nearing 250 subs, 100,000 views. It's been a year. We're 2 guys guessing around. We started with a black background. We finally have some other types of background, and we were just doing live streams. And now we've been making short videos from our live streams, and those have taken off. I mean, they started at 20 views, 30 views. Now they're hundreds of views, thousands of views, some of them. So it's been a lot of fun. So thank you so much for that.
Thank everybody watching. And I noticed we have a lot of people who are watching who are also commenting. We're getting sort of communities develop in the comment sections where you have people going back and forth with each other. That's great to see. We like to see people interested enough to get involved. That's fantastic. Please do get involved. Like, subscribe, give us your thoughts, comment, banter back and forth in the comment section. Tell me I look funny and I squint too much. Go for it. I don't mind.
Somebody said
you're watching.
Somebody said I look like hungover AJ Styles. Not a bad description. I'd say yes.
You don't look hungover. I could see maybe some of the AJ Styles there.
I got 2 AJ Styles, but the one was hungover. But then I'm like, it's really, did I have a baby? And I'm out of sleep, so it looks like I'm hungover.
Sleep-deprived AJ Styles.
Yeah, sleep deprived. Not hungover, but anyways, yeah. So we welcome. We got thick skin here. We're in the Philadelphia area. You could say what you want to us.
Go for it. Throw snowballs at us in the wintertime. There you go.
Right. All right, Dom. I think this has been a pretty good show. Kind of improving here without having the
full SmackDown rundown at our disposal. Full disclosure, I had problems watching the show tonight. So we called an audible, and this has been just kind of a Jalen Hurts keeper around the end. But hey, did we score a touchdown?
Yeah,
Tell
for
us in
sure.
the comments. Do you like that we threw together a good show with a lot of cheap heat and just a little bit from the SmackDown tonight?
That's it. All right, Dom. Well, appreciate your time. Thanks for you guys who are watching right now. Appreciate it. Come on, every Friday night we're here. So Friday nights we will be here recording the show. Even if we're not here Friday night, it'll be here Saturday. But we try to do Friday night. So
And we'll give you updates. There'll be some sort of announcement on maybe the Facebook. Maybe even we could get a little something out on YouTube. It's tough being able to keep it. Now that we have subscribers, we have to find more ways to actually keep in touch with our subscribers. So you're growing with us. We're going through some growing pains now, but they're good growing pains because, hey, it means we're growing. We like that. Thank you all so much for helping us grow.
Yep. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of